time now for a Sioux Falls real estate update, and we have Brent Baker with Keller Williams and Clients First Group. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic today.
We both have glasses on today.
Woo, we're both smarter. We look smarter anyway.
It's like we're reading fine print or something. So, now I'm excited to chat with you, and you gave me some info here. What every homeowner should know about their equity. And the nice thing is, there are probably a lot of people who, if they bought a home a while ago, even though maybe they don't want to sell it, that home is worth more money. There's equity there. So if they look at it, they might go, well, maybe I could, pull that equity out, or I could utilize that to buy a bigger, better, or smaller, more appropriate. But knowing what you have is always probably a good place to start, isn't it?
Well, it really is. I mean, even if you only care about your balance sheet. So if you're a business person, you need to know what your assets come to. What's that total bottom line? A good businessman wants to know what his equity is. So I've sold some properties to a man that he's paid cash for, but still wants an appraisal because he wants to know what his balance sheet really is. He's very detailed. It's not, he wants to be within $1 million. He wants to be within very few dollars.
Yeah.
And as a homeowner, you probably want that one just for your homeowner's insurance. If your home was destroyed, what would it cost you to replace that home today?
And it doesn't so much matter in that situation how much you paid for it, because if you bought that home 40 years ago, that doesn't matter at all. What matters is how much would it take to replace it today? Correct,
because you're not going to, the cost of materials and labor to replace it is in today's dollars, not 40 years ago. So, and some people really don't know what equity is, but it is purely the difference between what the home is worth on the market today and any debt that you might have. Yeah. So it is truly your portion of the ownership.
Yeah. So, and that's not a super hard thing to calculate if you know what the home is worth, and you probably know how much you owe against it. So this isn't like, really tough calculus or anything, is it?
It really isn't. I had the pleasure of sitting down with a couple recently. They've been in their house for 30 years. And as we walked through the process of buying and selling, they were shocked at the changes. They said, well, we remember walking through this. But they were shocked at the changes in the process, the things that are involved as far as steps, the documents. They were just in shock.
Yeah.
In fact, they had some words for it. They're very nice people, but they did have some words my mom wouldn't use.
Well, and I'm reading here, Americans are sitting on a whole lot of equity. Over 2/3 have either their mortgage paid off or at least have 50% equity. And there are probably some people listening that don't even realize what they're sitting on, because in their mind, they're like, I paid this much for it when I bought it, but they don't know that it's worth so much more today.
Correct. And, it may not matter to them, but if you're doing estate planning, like I talked about earlier, insurance, there's some cases where you really do want to know what your home is worth, even if you are not intending to sell.
And I'm looking at the breakdown. 39.3% own their home free and clear. 29.9% have a mortgage with at least 50% equity, and 30.8% have a mortgage with less than 50% equity. If I'm reading the little alligator biting the right way, if I'm reading those right, but it's about 30% for both.
Correct.
So and again, if somebody right now is thinking, boy, I've got a bunch of equity in this home, and maybe it's a home that they've outgrown. The kids are heading off to school, and we've got school starting up again right now, so there's going to be another batch of kids going off to school. And if there's somebody in a home where they raised a family, and now there's just echoes of where the family used to be, but they got all these empty rooms, it could be time to downsize and let somebody else move into that big home and raise their family. And if you're sitting on a bunch of equity, you might be able to buy something and not have a payment at all. And for the next chapter of your life, that could be a pretty cool place to be.
Correct. And, you have to think about the age of your home, and why that's important is how old are your shingles, your furnace, your AC, your water heater. At some point, they'll start coming due for replacement. And obviously that impacts your value, but at the same time, maybe you don't need all those rooms. Yeah. One of my favorite stories is I got a call right after high school graduation one time. And I remember the mother saying, okay, the last one's gone. Sell it before they come back.
See, that's another way to look at it right there. And that happens more often these days than one might realize. If somebody would like to just maybe kind of kick the tires and see, Brent, what would you even list it for? And they can do the math then. Because again, we were talking about home equity. If you don't know the numbers, it's hard to figure it out. But if you know what it's worth and you know what you owe on it, this is a pretty simple thing. If they would like to kind of get some of that information from you, how do they get a hold of you, Brent?
I can be found at 605-310-0297 or email me, brentbaker@kw.com.
Very nice. Brent, thank you for coming in, sir.
It's always a pleasure.
Brent Baker with Clients First Group and Keller Williams. This is the Sioux Falls Real Estate Update. If you're catching the tail end of this, you can always find it as a podcast at SiouxFallsPodcast.com.